Hi, I'm Bia, and today we are going to discuss designer portfolio evaluations. If you have any questions regarding the topic or any other topic, please leave a comment so we can address it in the future videos. And with that, I would like to welcome Laura.
Hi.
Currently UX UI designer, but you have had like a massive career growth while you have been here. And fun fact, the day of the shooting of the video is one day after Laura's 7th work anniversary. So thank you so much for being here with us this long. And I would like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and also your career so far at UX Studio.
Thank you for the introduction, and very nice to be here, and thank you for asking me for this. So hi, I'm Laura. I'm one of the designers at UX Studio, and Bia is right. I started on March 18th, 2019, so 7 years ago, and it's been a very interesting 7 years because I started in the studio as a UX researcher. Then 2 years in, I became one of the studio leads, which is internally one of the team lead roles that we have in the service team. And after that, I moved on, and currently I am a product designer in the service team. So yeah, in some ways I like to joke that I had 3 jobs in the same company, which is amazing because I got to try different things and I got to see different aspects of this business and this job, which is great. I'm not sure if I could have done that in another company. And yeah, so it's always been something new to learn, new challenges, new projects, new people. So it has been an interesting 7 years. I can't say that I got bored, and I can say that there is always something new, so you can grow professionally. That's true.
Yeah, and I also want to shout out because currently the leadership position that you had before is 3 people, but you have single-handedly handled the team leading, and also we had a massive amount of recruitments going on. So that's why I also asked Laura for this session, because we have done lots of designer recruitments together. And also currently we have been through designer recruitments in the company, so we are quite up to
True, actually. So now that you mention it, in my first year as a team lead, I think that year, because of all of the changes that were happening, we hired 25 people, both designers and researchers, and that was quite a lot when you think about it. I think we hired those people within the span of 12 months or something.
Yeah, I think so.
It was a lot, but to think about it, it was also one of the best times. I could see a lot of people, I could learn a lot of things, and it was also great to see how the people that we hired went on to grow professionally, and they developed after that. That was one of the nicest things.
Yes, and it was a different time because our biggest problem was like not having enough designers to allocate on projects. So that's why we were hiring so much, and it was also after COVID.
Yeah, we kind of got the Great Resignation. That was the Great Resignation period, and it came to us like it happened in the studio as well. But I have to say that was also the time when we found a lot of amazing people, and we had a very nice team after that.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is a good segue into like how we do the recruitment, and I would just like to say a few words about how like the recruitment steps that we have in UX Studio. I think it's important to cover before we jump in, like how portfolios are evaluated. So we do have like an application step where we ask candidates to fill out a questionnaire where we can learn a bit more about them. Then they have an interview with me. Then we send them a professional challenge task, and it's always custom made to each position. So designers, sales, finance, so we always custom make each pipeline. And then we have the final interview. And I would also like to mention that we don't use AI for evaluations. So I've seen this trend on LinkedIn and the frustration understandably about this, and people getting rejected just because they don't serve an ATS system. I do have something called the task force assigned to me for each recruitment. So their prospective team lead is taking part in the selection process, as well as at least 1, 2, or even 3 professionals from that same position. So I have quite a big team, and each application is evaluated by me for sure, and also at least 1, but ideally more task force members. So I think that was like very important to mention. And before we even jump into what makes a good portfolio, there are just a few key elements in applications that can cause immediate rejections, and I believe that we need to address that. Do you have anything in mind for this part?
Yes, but before I jump into that, I would like to say that we usually keep a pretty open mind when we're doing recruitment. So if we reject someone very early on, it's really because they don't match what we're looking for in any way. So their previous experience is not a match. Or, for example, if we are looking for people, we are currently actually looking for people who would be either in Budapest or open to relocate. But if they are not open to relocation, then in that case, it's not a match from the get-go. And I think this is one of the biggest reasons. And the other one is if it's someone whose experience or background does not come close at all to what we're looking for. So if it's industrial designers, physical product designers, we sometimes had people who were doing sculpture and they were applying to a digital product design position. And in that case, the distance is far too big for us to bridge it in a reasonable manner. So in that case, we cannot interview those people because we know they're not a fit for what we're looking.
Yes, and as mentioned, we don't use like these ATS systems for automatic rejections or this AI, so everyone is like kind of glanced over, at least by me. And if I see that, for example, this is a hybrid position with relocation mandatory, if someone from abroad applies with remote preference, that will unfortunately get automatic rejections. But when we have like hundreds of candidates, this takes a lot of time to go through. And also the role match kind of thing that you mentioned, that read through the job description to make sure that it matches with your position. I've also seen, and then we can segue into the portfolio. So it might sometimes be advised to create custom portfolios. Like if you're having different interests, we have seen a lot of, for example, portfolios with lots of graphic design, illustration, and then maybe only one UX UI project.
From my side, when I'm reviewing portfolios, whenever I see a portfolio like that with lots of graphic design, branding projects, and one or two UX portfolios, and even in that case, it's just a website. It's very hard to make the connection with product thinking, design, more design thinking. So there's probably that person is not going to move forward, because what we're looking for is people who we could trust to do the job. And when we see that their previous experience is not there, then it's very hard to move forward with those people. But as you mentioned, we always take a look. So it's very rare that we would say that, okay, this person, we're rejecting this person, at least until we look at their portfolio. Yeah. So we try not to discriminate. We keep an open mind. And even if it's someone with little experience, we still take a look at the person to see, okay, who are they, what have they done so far, and let's see what they actually know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, just to really touch upon the portfolios, there are some top-level things to look out for when you submit a portfolio. So do you maybe have some key elements that can ruin even a portfolio for you even before looking at the case studies?
Yes. So first things first, the format. If it takes a long time to load, or if I cannot open it, or if it doesn't open properly, then I cannot review anything. So that's a no-go. So make sure everything works. Make sure that it's a good format. So a website or a presentation is usually the easiest way to go. That said, I have also seen some Figma files which were actually pretty good. So yeah, but either way, it has to load and it has to work. And at least it has to make a good impression in the beginning. So if I see that the design is completely off right from the homepage or the landing page, that I'm going to be very skeptical moving forward. And what else here?
Maybe broken links. So if the link to the portfolio LinkedIn profile, or within the portfolio, like 2 case study pages, etc., is broken, then obviously we cannot check it. I also have password protection as a comment. Yes. Because we have received some portfolios with password protection, which is not a problem, but we couldn't find the password anywhere. So it's a good tip to just hide it somewhere, either in your questionnaire answers, your CV, or just write us an email with it.
Yes, definitely, because if it's password protected, again, we cannot take a look at it, we cannot evaluate it. So yeah, like you mentioned, dropping the password somewhere, maybe in an email to the recruiter, to make sure that your portfolio is actually viewable.
Yeah, and one note about the recruiter, like, know your target audience. So it can happen that if you're applying to a different company, which might be a bit more corporate, like the format can also make or break it. Like, can the recruiter or the HR person read it? So for example, they might not be as tech savvy to read a Figma file, so it's important to have maybe some different formats. Website is always working. The slides can also work unless it's too big for Google Drive. Or too big for any other file sharing platform.
And actually, you made a very good point there that Figma files as long as if it's a portfolio done in Figma, that works. But just sending Figma links as your portfolio, that should be a no-go, especially in 2026 when you have so many tools to actually build a portfolio. So I've also seen Figma handover files sent as portfolio links, and even for me as a designer it was hard to understand what's going on, like what's the context, what's happening here. I was just basically looking at screens which were grouped nicely in sections, but I had no idea of the context, no idea of the project, nothing. So in that case it's very hard to evaluate what it actually is, the project. So definitely just dropping people into Figma links, especially for a recruiter, I think that should be one of the deadly sins of portfolios.
So you heard it here first, the deadly sins of portfolios. I also have one additional point to this: language. So we have sometimes received portfolios in different languages, so it's best to check the company's official language and communicate accordingly. In the task force, like we are an international company, we often have foreign colleagues also on task forces, so we have received some Hungarian CVs, for example. We have received Spanish as well, maybe
Portuguese.
Dutch. I
Portuguese
also
for sure.
German.
Yeah, so ideally you should be applying and you should be sending your portfolio in a language which is easily accessible and easily understandable. I know that Google Translate works within browser, but still that shouldn't be something that you rely on as a designer for your portfolio.
Think about the UX.
Yeah, it can break. And the other thing is that when it's a machine translation or an automatic translation, it might miss some of the nuances and some things might get understood. The copy might not be so enticing, and it could actually kind of break your portfolio.
Oh yeah, definitely. So. All right, I think we covered like the top level information about the portfolio, so we can now move into the case studies. So in your opinion and in your experience, as we have mentioned, like we have gone through a lot of portfolios together, like how many case studies do you think a portfolio needs and how should people select them?
Mm-hmm. So what you want to do is that you want to be selective about your work. So you shouldn't add anything and everything that you've worked on. And I think this goes especially for seniors, because we've seen portfolios with 6 or 7 case studies, and at that point okay, this is a lot of information to go through. And what everyone should keep in mind here is that a recruiter's time is limited, whether it's us designers reviewing portfolios or recruiters, like they don't have all the time in the world to go through everything that you've worked on. So ideally, I would say select 2 to 3, maximum 4 case studies, make those projects that you've worked on, projects that you're proud of, projects that you know that you've made the difference or you had an impact. And what I would recommend is to maybe consider a bit the job description and find what would be relevant for us. Since we're an agency, we're kind of open to a lot of different people from different backgrounds. So we're not looking for niche or industry specific topics, but we usually want to see the best projects that they worked on, and we want to make sure that this is something that's representative for the person who is applying.
Yeah. And what advice do you have for people who are absolute beginners or like career changers in the field? Like, what kind of projects should they put into their portfolios?
So first off, most of them usually have some projects from the bootcamp or study that they've done. Include maybe one of those, but I think it's really important to try to look for experience as much as you can, even if you don't have it. So what I would recommend: freelancing, offering help for friends and family, volunteering, all those things to try to build up some experience. And with AI these days, I also think passion projects can be something. So building something that you're interested in, I think it's quite accessible these days. But even if it's someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, it's important to try to build up the experience to show that you can think about a problem, create the solution, and after that execute it.
Mm-hmm. And how about maybe for people who have had work experiences, but most of them are under NDAs? So maybe they have only one project that they can show.
In that case, there is the password protected option. So usually, even if it's under NDA, if it's shared within a small circle with the password protection, I think that kind of works. The other option is to talk about the project in a way that doesn't say the name of the client. So talk in very broad terms, like for example, if it's a leading marketplace for food ordering, for example, like there are 2 or 3 companies that you can think of within the space. So you can talk about the project and the problem in a high level, which doesn't say anything specific about the company.
And how about the final UIs in this case?
In that case, I think you can still show some work, but try to remove anything that could indicate the specific client or the specific company that you worked for. So you could use the same structure or maybe the same logic, but change the colors or change some things here and there to make sure that you're on the safe side. But generally, from what I've seen and what I've seen in portfolios and what I've seen other people do, the NDA thing works pretty okay.
Now we can go into how to present this. So can you also please share a few insights, like how does a good case study look like in a portfolio?
Mm-hmm. So there are different things that you want to think of. So copy, content, and the images that you actually put in. Copy is super important because it helps direct the attention in the case study. With copy, you can capture the attention of the person who's reviewing it, and after that, direct it. So headlines, subheadings are super important. And what I would say here is try to think about copy that is enticing, but it still kind of invites the person to read more. So, for example, I saw it in a portfolio that was like say hello to I don't know what app name. And I was like, okay, what is this? What am I reading this? A much better option would have been like, this is how we reduced, I don't know, time for creating daily tasks. So try to tell a bit about the project while still grabbing attention. So the reader wants to know more. That's one thing about the copy. The second is the content. What I've seen in quite a lot of cases is that people add absolutely anything and everything they've done related to a project in a case study. And I've also experienced it myself that sometimes I'm scrolling 7 or 8 times. There's a lot of information, but even after scrolling 7 or 8 times, I don't know what's the problem that they're solving or how they actually solved it. So it's a lot of information. Case studies shouldn't be an information dump. It should be a short, meaningful story about the problem that people solved and how they solved it and the decisions related to that. I'd like to put this very shortly that it should cover content-wise. A case study should cover 4 main points. So what's the problem, how you got to that problem, what was the solution, and what were the decisions regarding that solution. As long as you have these covered in a way that's short and meaningful at the same time, I think that can be a good case study. And the other one is images and visuals. So we are still working in design. Whether we like it or not, it has a visual component. So visuals are super important. And it's also important to have high quality images, high quality visuals, and visuals within context. Because I've also seen case studies where the person who did the case study, they add 3 or 4 different images from different places within the user flow, and it's hard to understand how those are actually coming together and what's the actual idea that I'm looking at. So always make sure to include images. Make sure the images are very good quality. That's also something, and make sure that the images make sense. So they actually tell a story, and it's not only an individual part isolated where you don't really know exactly what's happening.
We have seen some portfolios where there were just like, this was the project, this is the final UI.
Oh yeah, that's the other extreme. So we have the extreme where there's absolutely anything and everything from the survey content to the results to interviews to everything. Like everything is detailed. That's one extreme. The other extreme is like, okay, this is the problem, this is the solution, and this is the UI. And ideally, you want to be somewhere in the middle, not in one of these 2 extremes for sure. And I think this is one of the ways in which you can tell the seniority of a person. because the way they know how to talk about their work and they know how to present their work, that one speaks volumes about what they can do professionally as well. Because usually with designers who have, just like you mentioned, this is the context, this is the problem, and this is the solution, then you understand that they kind of rush through the solution a bit more, or they don't understand the importance of explaining how they got there or giving some more insights about the project. Versus the other extreme, they tell absolutely everything, and in that case my impression is that they don't really know how to prioritize their work, or they're not that good at presenting their work.
Yeah, and also I think it's very important to emphasize, like, if you have been working with others on a project that you're putting into the portfolio, like, highlight who did what. So what was your main role? It's not a problem if you describe the whole situation. It's just like also emphasize what was your main role in that specific case study.
Yes, especially if it's a bigger project, and if it's a project that has had a lot of impact. Probably those are done within a team, and for us, if we don't see that information from the get-go, then we have to start digging. And it's not what a designer would like to do in their portfolio is kind of tell the honest story of what happened and how it happened. If we have to go in and start digging, then it's not a straightforward experience.
Yeah, and if we have, I don't know how many hundreds of portfolios, we do not really have the time to dig, even if we want to. Do you have any maybe last tips and tricks for portfolios?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, make sure that it makes a good first impression. So usually if we see portfolios where the kind of like the homepage or the landing page is completely off, like the design is not there, or it's visually it's not pleasing, then probably we will still probably take a look at some case studies, but our willingness or the enthusiasm is probably not going to be there. So portfolios, they also have to look visually pleasing and aesthetically pleasing. That said, I think for designers, the portfolio is kind of like a business card, and if this is your business card as a designer, you want to put some effort into it and try to make sure that it actually reflects who you are as a designer. And given that there are so many designers out there with so many portfolios, and I have to say that in a lot of cases they look the same, I think it's very important to add a bit of a personal note, so add the differentiating element. And this can be done in two cases. Sorry. So either with an About You page or with the actual look and feel of the portfolio. And for the About You page, I think it's important to mention something differentiating about you. And I cannot count the number of times I've read that, hi, I'm a designer, and I approach problem solving with a lot of empathy to build stellar digital products. What I would recommend is to go a bit further than that, because everyone says the same thing at this point. So try to tell a bit of a personal story, how you got into design, what you like about it, how you approach it, something to stand out in a sea of people who are doing the same or saying the same. And for the look and feel, I would say that, again, this is an opportunity to show, to do some personal branding, and also to show recruiters how well you master the visual design parts. So mood boards are great here, so you can start collecting elements that inspire you, things that reflect who you are, and start building a look and feel based on that.
Don't be afraid to be whimsical a bit, or to show yourself a bit, because especially with AI nowadays, it's very, very easy to spot when something is prompted, then copy-pasted, etc. And it's really important to stand out, and you can only do that if you're like genuine and unique.
Yes, and I cannot, especially in one of the latest recruitment rounds, we have the questionnaire and we have the last question, and the answers that we get there, they seem so similar at some point that I just scan through them, because I can see that it's not anything that groundbreaking. And I would make a point here that I think in the studio we're especially open during the recruitment, that in most of our history we've had people who didn't quite fit a specific pattern, so we were open we were always open in recruitment to people with different experiences, different backgrounds, different attitudes, so to speak. And I actually remember one of our older coworkers saying at some point that everyone in the studio is a bit of a character. So we actually appreciate those personal touches, and whenever we see those either in the application or in the interview, usually that's a positive sign for us.
Yeah, and it's also like this AI thing has kind of changed how we formulate these questions, because we always have to think about the questions, like how easy is to prompt an answer to. So we try to avoid that, but even this case, in this case, there can be some AI answers. And the other thing, and thank you for mentioning, because another point where it can be an unsuccessful application, unfortunately, if someone absolutely does not take any effort to answer any of these, or just puts like a dash or a C in my CV, that's my personal favorite, C in my CV, because we genuinely want to get to know the candidates who are joining, and we put a lot of emphasis on being team fit. But on the other hand, I can understand that from the candidate point of view, the job market is hellish right now. So probably everyone is applying to hundreds, if not more, places at once. So I can understand that an application or applying to this many places is daunting and it's a lot of work. But on the other hand, companies will always select candidates who show some motivation to join that specific company. Just to summarize the portfolio section, do you maybe have any top 3 do's and don'ts when it comes to portfolios?
Oh, only 3? That's going to be hard. But okay, so top 3 do's. Oh, let's start with the don'ts actually. So top 3 don'ts. Don't drop people into Figma files. Make sure that the navigation, is working properly. I would like to joke that if a recruiter gets lost, then you're within the case studies, you're probably going to lose the position. And don't drop everything and anything that you've worked on in your portfolio. So those are my top 3 do nots. And my top 3 do's is try to tell a short, meaningful story about your work. Include good visuals, definitely very important. And 3, what would be the third one if I had to boil it down? Yeah, try to put the extra effort, go the extra mile to have something that as a differentiating factor, because it is a hellish job market, and there are a lot of people applying. That's one thing, but also there is a certain homogeneity within the applicants, I would say, and in that case, I think it's important to stand out a bit. So, through a personal note, through something that's more personal about you, try to stand out in a good, positive way, of course. So try to do something differently so you're memorable, and recruiters can see who you are, can understand that you can do the job, and they can see the motivation for joining a specific company.
Yeah, definitely. Because at the end of the day, yes, your next position is only a job, but I guess candidates also want to feel like they belong in the next position. So if it's possible, like show yourself, and probably like if you fit the team, you will feel much better if that is taken into consideration. Yes. Before I move on to my advice section from Laura, I would just like to mention that with the disclaimer that we know that at UX Studio we do things probably much differently than other companies do. So when you're applying for jobs, it's very important to know your target audience, what you're applying for, who will probably be looking into your application, and if needed, create separate type of portfolios for all kinds of positions that you're interested in. This will limit the rejection by a lot, because if you apply with irrelevant portfolios, that unfortunately won't make the first cut. Yes.
And I think this underlines what you were saying in the beginning as well, that if we see a portfolio where it's 5 branding projects and 1 UX project, then of course it's a no-go. And I would say we are different a bit in the recruitment process, that we give a lot of chances in a way, but at the same time we want to see if there's someone who knows how to do the job, and someone we can trust with doing the job. Because in the studio you get quite a lot of autonomy into doing this, and in that case we want to make sure that if we hire someone, they can do the job, and we can trust them with that.
Yeah, and it's also important to mention that we do not like have this very strict requirement of looking for a medior and senior, because if someone is very talented, we have hired a lot of juniors in our time who showed more UX thinking and product thinking than, for example, the more senior members who have applied.
Yes, and that was a common pattern at some point, that we saw juniors with potential, with great thinking skills, great product skills, who can talk about their work, who are enthusiastic, they're open to learning, and I think those are great qualities to have for this position. And I would also mention that there are a lot of candidates in the market. Some of them are coming from a lot of short design programs, or they're doing career switches, which is good in a way, but they also have to be a bit more mindful about how they're getting the experience, because yes, we are open, but we cannot go below a specific level. So we want to make sure that we can trust someone to do the job, and that we won't have to. So we do offer support, we do offer mentoring, but there is only so much that we can do there.
Yeah, we have a very deep learning in the beginning, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And now for the advice section, what advice do you have for someone who's looking to join us?
So, good question. So, what I would tell someone looking to join us. So, first of all, know your skills and know your job, and do that on a good base level, so we have a good base to start from. The other one is be honest and straightforward, and show your personal note in the application. Another thing that would help in an application is show that you want to learn, and that you're open to learning and doing things, because the studio is a pretty flexible environment, and you can do and you can learn a lot, but there also has to be some initiative. So you shouldn't wait for someone to say like, hey, I see that there's this new thing going on, would you like to learn it? It doesn't really work that way. So you have to be proactive, and you need to have the initiative. I have a bit of a funny story, because I applied to the studio 3 times and I got in the third time. The first time I applied for a researcher position, but it didn't work out, that we had different timelines. The second time I applied for a marketing position, and that also didn't work out, because I still remember the rejection that I got. It said that I'm a bit too enthusiastic for the position. I'm not sure if I should say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or that they would need someone with different things. And kind of like the third time when I applied as a researcher, that's when I got in. And in the meantime, it was still the days when Facebook was kind of popular, and there were a lot of articles from the studio published on Facebook, and David liked to joke that I was their stalker, because I was liking almost every post. And at some point I remember that he wrote me a message that, hey, thank you for all the support, if you're ever in Budapest, come by our office, have a coffee. And this was kind of like 2 years before I got hired. And yeah, I remember he told that story at some point in one of the company meetings.
Oh my God. And that recruitment where you were rejected for being too enthusiastic, how far did you get into the recruitment?
Oh, I made it to the final round.
The final round.
And, I mean, not the final round. So I did the challenge, and I think after the challenge I got the rejection. I think.
I wasn't the recruiter then, so I just want to point it out.
That was like 2017 or something.
Yeah. Wow. I do not know like what could have been the reason why they. Oh, that's an interesting feedback that you have received.
I can double check it. Like, I think I still have that email.
Probably. But thank you so much for all your insights into the designer portfolio evaluation. I do have some more fun questions too, Laura, that I have prepared. So I'm interested to know, like, we put a lot of emphasis on being unique, putting yourself out there, being a team fit. So this is why the fun section is here. So I'm also interested to know, like, what's your favorite memory from UX Studio?
Hard to pick only one. So my first one is definitely, so I remember the day when I came in to sign the contract, because so when I started we were mostly in person, and I remember that I came in person to sign the contract, and I signed the contract and everything, and after that, like within 5 or 10 minutes, someone started talking to me, and they were like, "Hey, how are you? Are you going to be the next researcher?" La, la, la. Oh, I'm the business development manager, and do you have lunch? Do you want to have lunch with us? And I remember that I stayed after I signed the contract. I think I stayed for another 2.5 hours free. I had lunch with the team, and I remember when I left, I was like, "Oh my God, this is such a nice team! I cannot wait to join them." And I remember I got home and my battery was dead. But the second day, I emailed the office manager back then saying that thank you for yesterday. It was great to meet the team, and I cannot wait to meet them. That was the first one, and the other one was. So when I joined, we had a thing on Friday mornings called How We Work, and it was basically kind of like a knowledge sharing. It was pretty interactive. We were working in teams, and it was always very nice because we were having fun, learning from each other. It was completely different time and different mood, and most people were in person in the office back then, but that was great. I also remember very fondly when we started the second phase of the first project that I was on. We were still trying to figure out how to do and how to approach this project, but I came up with an idea that we could quiz them from the research that we did in the first phase of the project. And we did that, and it was amazing that first they got all of their answers right, because we didn't know exactly how much they were listening to research. They got all of the answers right, and the second one was that they were so excited about the quiz idea that they said that can they get a copy so they can start doing it internally. And it was so nice that we had the freedom to come up with different ideas on the project, different initiatives, and we can actually do them. And it was great with clients. And I have one more. When I finished the studio leading, and it happened that we did the handover on a retreat, and we did the UX Cup where everyone had lots of fun. And at the end of the UX Cup, like David came in and said, like, "Hey, we're gonna do thank you for doing this," and everyone who was there started clapping, and it almost stopped at some point, and then it started again, and that was super nice.
Yeah. How long were you studio leader?
2 years and a few months.
Yeah.
But it felt a lot longer.
Oh yeah, definitely. And what has been your most challenging project so far?
My most challenging project, from which position?
Up to you.
Yeah, so we did have some challenges. So recruitment was a challenge on some projects, but that normally happens, that not something doesn't always go to plan, but it was usually things that we could figure out within 2 or 3 days.
You mean the recruitments for participants?
Yeah, for participants. Yeah, recruitment for participants on projects, recruitment for research participants. That was always a bit challenging, especially in 2019, 2020, because it was still, in 2019, for example, we were still doing most of our research in person. So when we had people coming to the office, we had a dedicated researcher room, we had the camera to record the phone, we had the test devices. So it was a completely different setup. And yeah, and we didn't think that doing these remotely was an option, but then the pandemic came and that one got solved. I think what was challenging maybe in the first year as a studio lead was managing and juggling everything. That was a bit challenging, but still it kind of worked out in the end, I would like to say.
Yeah, well, thanks to you. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, it was. But we somehow made it through, and the good thing after that is that we got 2 studio leads instead of 1, which was not an option when I first started.
And what made you transition to UX UI design from research?
I think I wanted to do a bit more, because with research you find the insights, you find the pain points, but then it's nice when you can also get to shape them, and you get to build something from them, and you get to bring them to life. So yeah, and in some ways I've kind of been, so initially I started as a graphic designer. I didn't really like that. In graphic design you have one stakeholder that you have to please, and they're probably not the most informed always. And after that I moved into digital marketing. In digital marketing I did a lot of things, from analytics, email marketing. We also did some landing page wireframes. And after that I got into UX research, and then the team leading, and then finally back to design. So
Yeah, it's very exciting. And we have recently moved into a totally new office. And I'm interested to know what's your favorite thing currently. Of course, there's still improvements in progress, but do you maybe have any favorite things now?
Well, I think it's a nice office, and the terrace on top is very nice. And I also enjoy right now that, so it's kind of fun that if you if one of the doors gets slammed shut and you don't have the token, like there's a doorbell that you can ring, and the people inside can hear, or we know the secret location.
Yeah, that we will not disclose at any point throughout these videos. And what's your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh. Uh, I think most times is people who are kind of like oblivious of the ones which are around them. So yeah, it's for me personally, if it's a group of people and they're completely oblivious to one person or like their surroundings, I think that's kind of nice. No, it's kind of bad.
Yeah.
Like one example is that, and we've had this sometimes, that when we had evenings at the office, and you can come in on Monday and you can see everything is still everywhere. That's not nice. And I'm like, okay, you were here, at least clean up after yourself.
The dishes, the trash, the everything. Yeah, it's also a pet peeve of mine being inconsiderate of others, especially when it comes to like public spaces or like common spaces.
Especially in a group setting, it's not that nice when someone feels left out because you're not really taking them into consideration.
And everyone wants to belong, so
Yeah.
that's the nice thing to do.
But now that you mention it, there was one other fun memory that I had of the studio. So I think it was when we were in the office back in Mozar. Sometimes after work on Fridays, we would somehow naturally gather in the kitchen for some drinks, and everyone was talking, having fun. That was always nice.
Yeah. And what do you like to do as a person in your hobbies, in your free time?
Well, I'm pretty boring here because I do most of the things that other people do. So listening to music, traveling, movies, and recently I started becoming a bit bigger, or I got more into reading. I like to joke that reading is my new binge watching. That I've had weekends when I could finish 2 books. So yeah, this is my biggest thing right now, the reading.
And what happened to the painting? You were painting also for a period of time.
I should get back to that sometimes. It's on my to-do list, but sometimes, especially after a long week, it's easier to like just take a book, because painting is still creative and you still need to focus and you need to be present somehow, and my brain needs a break sometimes during the weekend. Yeah, so painting is also on the to-do list, but maybe I should get back to it a bit more.
Yeah. And I would also like to mention that Laura has a really good, is it called green thumb when you're like very knowledgeable about plants? Because you constantly take care of them, you revive them if needed.
I killed a few in the beginning. That's how I got my green plant. But I also enjoy taking care of plants. That's true, because plants are a bit like humans. You have to make sure that they have the right conditions to grow and everything. And that said, I also learned a few things about them by doing. And actually, one of the fun ones was last year. I repotted some of them, and I mixed fertilized soil with regular soil. And I actually was thinking, more fertilizer is going to be better, right? No, like if you add too much fertilizer, then the plants feel that they're under pressure and the roots can rot. So yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. I regularly clear plants, so I do not have the green thumb yet. Wow, that's interesting. And I do have a surprise question. I will make it my mission to ask unhinged questions on these interviews. It might not be such a surprise to you because I've seen that you liked this particular video on Instagram. So it goes like this. I will read it to make sure I get it right. You have to defend yourself in combat with a vegetable. Which vegetable are you choosing?
I have to defend myself against a vegetable.
No, with a against someone. So you have the vegetable in the combat.
Oh.
As a weapon.
Yeah, this is a good one. I remember, so now that you mention it, there was the same fun question, like, would you rather fight 100 small duckies or one horse-sized duck? So yeah, but if I had to defend myself with a vegetable, my first thought maybe would be a beetroot and try to throw it because that's gonna make a mess and it's gonna distract attention. And it also stains quite badly. So
Oh yeah.
that's my first one. And I'm thinking if there's any vegetable that I dislike in particular or anything that could be useful. Carrots might be a way of poking, so carrots can be a strong contender. And what else? We're also not, are we thinking about the size of the vegetable?
It can be.
And can be because, and are we thinking about the vegetable itself or about the
It
way,
can be any part.
it can, and that way you can take kind of like for example a strand of tomatoes and start eating someone with it. So yeah, depends on the thing, but I think I would go with the carrots because you can do a lot with poking.
Poking. Do you think you can sharpen it so much that it can pierce through someone?
I maybe wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far, but you can poke, yeah, like definitely a bunch of carrots. Yeah.
When I first saw this question, I immediately thought about the squash, which has like this narrower side and then the bigger side, so you can like hold it and like punch people, or chili, like powdered chili, just to into someone's eyes and then finish them in Mortal Kombat style.
Yeah, but then again, you need to process the chili from
True.
But then it's not a bad idea that you can actually get the spice chili or the paprika, and like if it gets on somewhere, then it's kind of painful.
Yeah, like drench my hands in it and then just put it on their face. But then I will also put it on my face because I'm clumsy, so maybe not the best idea. But thank you so much. This was all my questions for now. So thank you so much for your time and all your insights into the interviews. It was lovely to have you, and it was a privilege that you have been my first interview candidate in this series.
Thank you for asking, and hope it was useful. And if you have any questions, I drop them in the comments, and we will try to get back.
Yeah, and all that like and subscribe or whatever these people usually say on this. And until next time, please take care and see you later. Bye bye.